Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As it was mentioned, my name is Fred Minagar, the mayor of the beautiful city of Laguna, Niguel. I first would like to begin by thanking the Moulton Niguel Water District for again being the lead agency behind this annual event. And I would also like to thank the City of Lake Forest and more specifically my great friend, Mayor Scott Voigt, for hosting this year's event in this beautiful, brand new community center. As an elected official in South Orange County, along with HOA board and landscape committee volunteers, property managers, and landscape professionals, we all pride ourselves on the quality of life we work hard to sustain for our residents, our businesses, our visitors, and our community. Quality of life depends upon responsibility that many of you would agree that we all work tirelessly to ensure the economic, health, property values, and above all, the beautiful quality in our communities so that they are prosperous now and well into the future. However, we also recognize that along the way, like in life, we also encounter challenges. The year 2020 is a perfect example in which all experienced unprecedented challenges of living and working during a global pandemic. As if that wasn't enough, now we are also entering what many scientists have described as a mega drought. According to the US Drought Monitor, almost every county in California, let's put it in perspective, we have 58 counties in California, we got 482 cities, we got 34 cities alone in Orange County, 88 cities in Los Angeles County, 19 cities in San Diego County, 17 cities in Riverside County. I can go on and on and on. The impact of the drought in the state of California, severe to exceptional drought. To work to combat this, the governor has called on all Californians to reduce water consumption by 15%. Unfortunately, this isn't our first drought, and it certainly would not be our last, but together we can commit to taking corrective and necessary actions. In Laguna Niguel, my home city, where I have lived for nearly 30 years, we have focused on educating our residents, our businesses, and homeowners associations about water serving or water saving tips on what they can do to help our community. We have shared resources related to smart irrigation system, drought tolerant plants, and have also informed residents about Moulton Niguel's rebate programs. However, this is not easy feat. In South Orange County, and especially in my home city of Laguna Niguel, homeowners associations cover the vast majority of land in our cities. In Laguna Niguel alone, there are over 120 homeowners associations covering a large percentage of the city's footprint. I highlight this because homeowners associations are important partners in achieving our common goals, including water consumption, reduction, and the city of Laguna Niguel is committed to engaging with HOAs in our city on many topics. One of our engagement avenues between the city and our HOAs is the start of our recently distributed Laguna Niguel Homeowners Association's newsletter, which is now provided to all Laguna Niguel HOAs on a quarterly basis. to provide important city information and useful HOA resources. Additionally, we are hosting an HOA roundtable discussion on Wednesday, November 3rd at our City Hall community room between 11:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. The city-hosted roundtable discussion will be held on a biannual basis going forward, and will cover various topics such as landscaping and planting, wildfire mitigation, and of course, water conservation. For more information about our upcoming HOA roundtable discussion or on our quarterly HOA newsletter, you can contact our Community Development Department at 949-362-4300. And if you are an HOA located in my city of Laguna, Niguel, I hope you consider attending our upcoming HOA roundtable discussion. We will be very happy to have you as a guest. I want to thank you all for attending this beautiful annual event and inviting me as a featured guest. Today, we are going to hear from a panel of experts in the landscaping sector who are going to discuss path to drought resiliency, our roadmap to not just enduring droughts, but to thriving and recovering faster from future water shortages. Here to introduce the panel is the Honorable Diane Rifkin, a board member of the Moulton Niguel Water District. Please join me in welcoming board member Rifkin. Thank you very much.
Good morning, friends and neighbors. It's so nice to see so many friendly faces here and so glad you could all make it. And thank you, Mayor Minagar, for that presentation. My name is Diane Rifkin. I was appointed to the Moulton Niguel Water District Board earlier this year. And I'm so pleased to be able to stand here and talk to you a little bit as part of the presentation for the H2O for HOA. So like our president, finding that a little bit of a tongue tie, but it's a great event. And what's interesting to me as I've learned more about it too, is that I know that you've always offered presentations from acclaimed experts on a variety of topics, including landscaping and sustainability and resource management fields. But today we're going to do something different. And today we're bringing you our very first panel of experts on drought resiliency. And so with half of our annual water supply, actually even more in the summer, as Tony told us earlier, more than half of our annual water supply goes to outdoor watering. A lot of people think a lot gets used indoors, and we all want to conserve in that regard too, but it's outdoor watering that's really the major issue. And so it makes sense that our greatest opportunity to manage water demand and to prepare for the drought is to improve the outdoor water efficiency by evaluating the landscaping choices, the irrigation practices, and also the maintenance needs. So what we've done is we've convened an array of professionals in the landscaping sector with expertise in horticulture and landscape design, professional landscape education, irrigation management, and landscape maintenance. And they're going to engage in a discussion today that I think you'll find really interesting, because they will evaluate our landscaping choices, irrigation practices, and maintenance needs. So we're a little bit different perspective today, and that should be very interesting to all of us. What's important about that is that they're going to be able to engage in this discussion and share their thoughts and expertise and the various ways in which we can all participate and be more drought resistant in our communities. And since we work together, that's the panel is going to be our very own Joone Lopez, and Joone is the general manager of the Moulton Niguel Water District. Moulton Niguel provides water and wastewater and recycled water for 6 cities in South Orange County. And next, I'm going to briefly introduce the experts that you're going to hear on the panel. And then I'll pass the baton to Joone to moderate the panel. And please take a look at your programs to see more complete bios for the speakers who are going to present to you today. So our first panelist is going to be Jody Cook. Jody is a landscape designer and an owner of Jody Cook Design and project manager of Naturescape Turf to Native Garden Program. Jody Cook is a horticulture and landscape design consultant. Our second panelist is David Silva. And David is a landscape education specialist with the California Landscape Contractor Association. He's worked at California Landscape Contractors Association for 14 years, primarily as a certification manager for the landscape industry, certified technicians, and certified water managers. Our third panelist is Danny Smith. And Danny is a director of water management at Park West Companies. He holds many certifications through the Irrigation Association and the California Landscape Contractors Association. So like all of you, I look forward to hearing from this great panel, and I will pass the microphone to Joone now. Thank you for letting me be part of your program.
All right, if I can get the panelists on the stage so we can get started. Hello again, my name is Joone Lopez. I jumped on the stage earlier and I didn't realize I did not introduce myself. So thank you very much, Director Rifkin, for doing that. Panel, I'm sure you're all very excited about. I know we're getting closer to the end of the program, but I will tell you, I don't know if you caught the announcement earlier, but there is an opportunity drawing. So if you turn in your pledge, which should be right in front of you, there are some giveaways for this opportunity drawing. So stay tuned, don't leave earlier. We'll entice you to stay. All right. So just so you all point out, in the middle, as you can tell, is Jody Cook. This is Danny, David, and that's Danny. That's right. My eyesight's are bad. I don't have my glasses. So we had a prep call and we had a really good conversation. So I'm excited about this because what better time than now to talk about what we can do for HOAs and just outdoor landscaping in general. And what better than to have the best experts in the field here with us today to share with us some of their experience. And as Mayor Minagar pointed out, we are heading into the mega drought. And we've heard about the voluntary cutback from Governor Newsom, 15%. We're going to pretty much anticipate getting some mandatory reduction as we enter 2022. When you look at the condition of water in the state of California, we're in unprecedented time. I know we're tired of hearing that word because 2020 was unprecedented, but it's only getting better or worse, I guess, depending on how you look at it. Because when you look at the supply of water to Southern California, which comes from the Northern California through the State Water Project, the Colorado River, both of these sources are experiencing historic problems. The State Water Project is right now only at 5% allocation. And it's looking like for the first time in the history of the California aqueduct that we're going to have zero allocation. There are parts of Southern California that are completely reliant on Northern California. So when you talk about a scenario of 0%, they're looking at over 40% reduction. When you look at the Colorado River, you've all seen the bathtub ring. Again, record low. We've never seen that kind of condition in Colorado River. And in 2026, the 7 states, the upper and the lower basin states that take water from this source are going to sit back at the table and renegotiate how much water they get. And not to mention the drought that we're heading into. So a lot of these things seem a little pessimistic. However, when we work together, as our theme at Moulton Niguel, we are resilient together. And as Jody pointed out during the prep call, whether it's a drought or no drought, it's a way of life that we have to live so we can be better prepared and just use this precious resource very efficiently. So I'm going to start because I like storytelling. I always think it's interesting because, they're the experts, you know what they do, but it's like, who are you? And why did you get into the field that you are in? Because it's not something that people think of when they're growing up in school. I'm like, I want to be a director of water management for Park West. And I want to be a landscape designer and own my own business. Or be the head of the California, sorry, I gotta look at this, right? The California Landscape Contractors Association. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you got into all of this. And we'll start with you at the end, Danny.
Okay. You hear me okay? Good. So I actually started off in the water management industry as a meter reader. I was a water manager for a company who's no longer around, Spectrum Care Landscape. Sunset, you guys remember Spectrum Care Landscape. And we were subcontracted for the city of Tustin. And so every Monday I would drive my Chevy S10 around the city of Tustin. I had my own route, didn't make any left turns, basically kept right all the way through, and read 82 meters every Monday and inputted that into the IWM log software that was created with IRWD. And I loved saving water. So I got good at it. I really did. And then I started seeing water savings month after month, year after year. And, I fell in love with, my office is Jamboree. I thought that was just really neat to do that. So, water conservation, adjusting irrigation. I didn't have smart controllers. This was going back 13 years ago. I had Rainbird ISC controllers. And, for those of you who know, those are pretty darn old now. But being able to manually operate them and to see water savings, seeing that report card come in from Aquafishing, I got the A's coming in, was a good feeling for me.
That takes us by report card.
You remember the report card?
Exactly. So what do you do in your role at CLCA?
Thank you. Well, my role now, we're good? Okay. My role now is really to oversee our entire irrigation and water management operations. Fortunately, Park West has afforded me a team of now 9 professionals in Southern California. So getting them up to speed, getting them certifications, getting them trained, and then they can impact our nearly 85 irrigation technicians in California alone. So that's really where I provide value. Is at the highest level. I make sure that we're doing the best that we can on our jobs, on our communities to make sure that we're conserving as much water as possible.
How about you, Joone? What's your story?
Well, I grew up in a place that holds 80% of North America's surface fresh water, 20% of the globe's surface available fresh water. And so I grew up in a place that was truly immersed and surrounded by water. And so I guess I feel like during the course of my life, and that's Northern Ontario, Canada, by the way. If anyone's been up there, there's more water than land, and it's easier to get somewhere in a boat than it is in a car. But what I've watched over the course of my life is I have watched landscapes become less and less and less natural and less resilient. And so I feel like part of the reason that I'm here is because I'm hoping to be able to help bring some of that natural resiliency that natural systems have back to our built landscapes.
All right. Well, we got more to follow up on that because I know we've done some work with all of you guys. So what about you, David? How did you get started?
So actually, I had previous experience in high school and in college in landscaping, working for a family company up in Reno, Nevada. And, that was just something I did, while I was in college. But fortunately or unfortunately, when the real estate market crashed in 07, 08, I was laid off. So I went back to work in Reno, Nevada for a little bit until I could, find a new job in Sacramento, which is where I'm from. And, there was an opening at the California Landscape Contractors Association for an admin assistant. So applied, got the job. And I guess I just, kind of had good timing because in 07, 08, they were starting up a water management certification program, with the help of the Irrigation Association and California Urban Water Conservation Council. Fortunately, that was one of the projects given to me. I took over the, program. And that was back when, we were teaching people how to do water budgeting on their landscapes using spreadsheets. And, we've evolved to an actual computer program where we keep, landscape irrigation budgets for contractors. I work with a lot of contractors that are in the room, companies like, Danny, at Park West, we do a lot of education for them. And we cover the entire state of California. So I'm down here a lot, and I'm working with Metropolitan Water District to promote some of their certification programs that we administer. I love what I do. I've been in the industry for almost 15 years now, and been pretty fun.
That's good, because I think back, and it's not too far back, but even in early 2000, when I got started in water, things like conservation, water use efficiency, outdoor landscaping, those were not really the cool topics that people talked about when they talked about water. And now, because of the last historic drought and just overall awareness and what we're facing today, your roles and what you do and the benefit that you provide have been elevated, as it should. So I was wondering, in your respective experience over the years in your respective capacity, what are some of the trends that you have seen? And particularly given the last historic drought, what are some of the maybe changes that you've seen? And we'll start with you, David.
Some of the changes I've seen, especially the last 10 years with HOAs is a bigger focus on what they call turf replacement. So, water agencies will give you, so much to remove, square feet of turf from your landscape, which obviously, is a huge water saving thing that you can do, putting in, drought resistant plants. But I would say that would be the biggest trend. Aside also, technology has changed unbelievably in the last, the 15 years I've been in the industry. So many, new innovations. Obviously, weather-based irrigation controllers is one. Mini rotating nozzles is another one that's out there. And there's a lot more data than there used to be. Given all the work that has been put into the plant databases like WUCOLS, which is I can't remember. But
Water use classification.
Yes, water use classification of plant landscape species.
Yeah.
Okay, WUCOLS.
0.6.
Yeah, so there's been a huge number of innovations that have gone into saving water in the last 10 years. And I think, when CLCA put that program together, we were a little bit ahead of the curve, thinking that 2020 was going to be our year when water budgets were going to be, mandatory for everyone. That date keeps getting pushed back, but, always gets revisited whenever we have a drought.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad I'm not the one that's messing up on things today. But it's true, because as Justin mentioned, the turf removal program, which has been very successful, just in our service area alone, today we remove 6 million square feet of turf. And that only represents 1% of all the irrigable landscape just in our service area. It really shows the potential for what more we can do. And that's not to say all turf needs to be removed. We're just talking about the kind of the non-functional, more the ornamental type of turf that you can transform into beautiful landscape. And you heard from Tony earlier about all the weather-based irrigation system that with technology just seems to get better and better. So Danny, what about from your experience? Because I mean, you have a large company and you've seen this and you're sort of this water guy at heart. What has some of the trends and changes that you've seen over the years?
It's been a pretty interesting a blend of things. Really the biggest driver obviously is the water costs. It's not just the unit rate, but also the tiered rate structure and how that affects areas of or meters or systems of high percentage of turf, right? Those can be very, very damaging to an HOA's budget. Then we look at the technologies that came in, like he mentioned, smart controllers, high efficiency nozzles, drip line. We're seeing miles and miles and miles of drip line being installed, obviously going after that key issue, runoff, right? So that's great. But really, one of the other issues I think that we have is the cost of labor. And so how are we really juggling cost of labor, high quality technology that's coming in, cost of water. And it's really it's the responsibility of people like us to really navigate the future ahead. Because I think that, this is a new frontier. Water rates are not going to go down. Nothing's going to go down. Gas prices, I don't think are going to go down. And how we navigate that, is really going to dictate what our landscapes and what, our society is living in.
So when you look at the turnout for all of our H2O for HOA events, we've had great response. And in our service there, we have over 300 HOAs. 75% of our customers live in HOAs. So from an HOA experience, do you find that more and more HOAs are getting engaged, or do you still see a lot of room for growth in participation?
The largest HOAs, your master associations, the ones who are basically mini cities in themselves, I think they're well equipped. They have the property management, they have the landscape committee, the art committee, they have the history. They know what they're doing. Your smaller organizations, your smaller HOAs, I think are coming around. But I challenge you. Look, I'm the treasurer of my HOA. Kind of walked myself into that one, but proudly, of course. But what is our number one variable expense for an HOA? Water. If you look at the top expenses of a condo association, slurry seal, roofing, water. Single family homes, typically water. I mean, the mortgage for the clubhouse is less than the cost of water. So if we can truly manage the water, know what we should be putting out on the landscapes, that's how we're going to manage the books, keep the HOAs dues low, and everyone can still enjoy the landscapes in which they live.
And Jody, when people are ready to make that transformation, you're the one that comes and helps them and understand what is possible. And having worked with you with our agency and seen some really interesting programs, and we've done Naturescape, Calscape, and we've seen this really growth in outdoor landscaping and focus on transformation. So from your experience, whether it's an HOA or whether it's just a single family homeowner, what are some of the things that you're seeing from the people who we have to convince that this is the right thing to do?
Well, to go back, Joone, to your earlier question about trends, I've been a member of the Association of Professional Landscape Designers and the American Society of Landscape Architects for about 20 years. And every year they survey their membership, and their membership is asked, what are their customers asking for? And so one thing that has happened over the last 10 years, and this is related to water as a piece of the puzzle, but water is not the whole puzzle. And that if the whole puzzle of a sustainable landscape is addressed, then the water piece starts to fall into place. And the reason I'm saying that is because what landscape architects and designers are finding they're being asked for are sustainable landscapes. And that doesn't mean only technology to solve runoff and overspray and all of that, but it also means how do we create a landscape that is actually resilient regardless of the irrigation water that comes in. So the biggest questions that they're asked by their clients, and I get asked these questions every day, what kind of plants can we use that have an inverted ET curve? So they don't raise their water in summer, they lower their water in summer. How can we grade our landscape so that we absorb rain instead of washing it run off? How can we prepare our soil to hold rain? So these kinds of things are becoming, I think, much more
raised in the awareness of the average person in a way that they maybe weren't 10 years ago.
So if someone wanted to find a landscape designer like yourselves, and I mean, we all know Jody, but if someone said, you know, I want to see what I can pick from, where do they go to find people like you?
Well, you know, my industry is in a transition because there are conventional landscape people, and the conventional landscape mindset does come from the world of agriculture, and it comes from the world of 18th century gardens of royalty. But the new landscape mentality is coming from the world of restoration and resilience. And so to find people who are able to understand where landscapes are going, not where they were, that's the challenge. So there's really two places that you can look, and there's some very specific questions that you should be asking. So you can look to the American Society of Landscape Architects. You can type your zip code in and someone will come up that has some expertise in your area that is a licensed landscape architect. You can do the same with the American Society of Professional Landscape Designer Association. But it's actually the questions you ask them that are more important than their qualifications. And the questions you should be asking them are, how does our landscape become resilient? How do we become lower water users before we even start talking about irrigation technology? How do we understand how to make plants that grow naturally in our region look beautiful in our landscape? Because we all want beautiful landscapes. How do we grow native plants in a way that enhances our community? So I think it's a two-part answer, Joone.
David, did you bring notes? I see paper in your hand. Did you bring notes?
Oh, I did, yeah.
No, that's pretty useless because I'm totally going off script. I did warn you guys. I know. I know during the prep, I said, I'm just going to go off script. Well, it's because it's really interesting what you guys are saying. And so, David, we've done a lot of training for professional landscapers at our agency. We've done even bilingual training, which has been really popular and very well received. So what are some of the things that are being done to give the tools and the information to the professionals who are in charge of these large areas? And what more training, in your opinion, should or can be done?
Yeah, I think what we're trying, organizations like Metropolitan Water District are currently trying to do is invest in education for contractors. Throughout the last decade, education, it can be pricey for certifications in irrigation, and Metropolitan Water District is making an investment in subsidizing that education. So what they're offering, and I know Danny had taken our classes before this. Basically, they're paying for contractors to send their employees to our classes to learn proper water management, to get certified, become qualified. People that know how to do proper scheduling, know how to use the weather-based irrigation controllers. And it's free. And I don't, that's the only organization that I know of that is subsidizing the education. And it's available pretty much in their water, anywhere in their service area. I come from Sacramento, so we do a lot of stuff in Northern California. And, I have a lot of contractors that wish that program was available to them, because it's very costly. Training can be $400 to $500 per person. And the fact that Metropolitan believes in education so much that they're willing to pay for each person to go through, I think is a huge step for Southern California, a huge step for contractors. I have a number of people that are already interested in our classes here in the room. Some people that are already gone through them. And I think that there's availability. I think the message to HOAs is really hire professional contractors, hire people that have been certified, hire people that know how to do water management.
So how long is the course and how hard is it? And most importantly, is there a test?
There is a test. Yeah, actually, that's funny. I'm actually doing a test at this building, in one of the rooms over here. So, I've got 20 people that are going to be taking the exam, the final exam. We also talk about irrigation auditing, but it's roughly 21 to 25 hours of training that they have to go through. They sit through the classes. So we've been offering them online lately, during pandemic, but we are hoping to get back to doing them in person soon. So that's our plan. And yeah, I would say HOAs look for, qualified, certified people.
So how many have gone through the program and been certified?
So before this merge with Metropolitan, I got about 130 people. What makes it hard is they have to manage the landscape still budget. So, we get people, we lose people. It's not a lifetime certification. You have to do work on an annual basis to keep it. But through, since the partnership with Metropolitan Water District, we had 130 people go through the class in the last year, and roughly we should have about 50 to 60 people that are going to be certified after today.
So Danny, when Park West is hiring people, do you look for those kinds of certification, or do you encourage your folks once they're hired to go through that kind of process?
Absolutely. We do look at the databases quite regularly, looking for talent. This is a new industry. So, kids coming out of college, picking up the Quell, the certified water manager, they're very valuable to our industry. And, we are looking at putting programs together to make sure that people understand that, what's available, and talking about resilience, what David's done the last 18 months, building the dual certification program. You can get basically 2 certifications, the qualified water efficient landscaper and the certified water manager in basically one go. That's really, really helpful. So taking advantage of his programs, really is going to drive the industry in the right direction. So all of our team, we're looking at per role, what requirements must they meet in order to be in that role. So either they come into the role and we give them a certain amount of time, just like any other entity. You have 12 months to get this, you have 18 months to get this. Quell, the Quell and the certified water manager is part of that. For my team, the CLIA certified landscape irrigation auditor, very, very big deal. And then because of all the fun that we're having down in San Diego with recycled water, we're getting a lot of people recycled water site supervisors certified. That's kind of the hot topic right now. And I know Orange County and LA has had programs like that before, obviously just to make sure that we're working and managing recycled water systems, not only to Title 22 standards, but obviously making sure that our communities are safe.
So as we're gearing up for this mega drought, and again, we talked about this as drought or no drought, but given the tough conditions that we're facing, from your experience, sort of if you could have your wish, like what is the thing that you think would be very helpful to get more people engaged and involved? Because we're still trying to get people convinced that this is the right way to go, and we're making a great deal of progress. And so we have the news and we have these challenges to kind of hopefully further inspire people. But if there was that one thing that you believe, if this happened or if we had that, it would make such a difference in trying to spread the word and get people to be more like Danny, what would that be?
I think we need to utilize social media. Unfortunately, that is the world that we live in. And I know Metropolitan, as well as our agencies here, are doing their part to push the good word. But I remember Ricky the Raindrop and going to I name dropped, but the Wild Safari Animal Park, in elementary school, and going on those field trips, and that was great. Learning about water, learning about gallons per person per day, and turning the water off while brushing your teeth. I think all those practices are still around. It's only been a few years, I think, that when we go to hotels and we see you're not going to get, laundered automatically. You have to ask for it, put the towel on the floor if it's dirty. I think it's strategies like that through social media that I think will make a big difference. You have the attention of the experts, you have the attention of the utilities, you have the attention of of the HOAs, commercial properties. But, once your average person is living in water conservation, I think that's when we're going to start making, good headway.
And name dropping is a good thing. It's a cool thing. But I
Ricky
do
the
agree.
Raindrop. I love
Yeah.
Ricky the Raindrop.
It lasts with you, right?
Yep.
Well, on social media, it's getting the word out. And I think that everyone can do that in social media. So it's not just Metropolitan or the agencies that you see are supposed to do social media. You all have a phone. I'm sure many of you have Facebook, Instagram, and Nextdoor. So there's nothing like the power of the word when it comes from your own neighbors or people you know. So that is one takeaway that we can all do starting today, is just put on our social media some of the things that we're experiencing and learning, even like the event today. So Jody, if there was one point of frustration that you have that really is the barrier to doing more in terms of what we can do to make outdoor landscaping not just efficient, but aesthetically pleasing, because there is that sort of misconception that, oh, I don't want cactus and I really don't know what to do. And so we've had a lot of struggle trying to really brand the outdoor landscaping transformation. So what are some of the barriers you see as to why it's difficult, whether it's an HOA that's not participating in these programs or even individual homeowners? What are some of the things that we really need to focus on to get us over that barrier?
Well, I know in my HOA, by far the highest spending is on landscape, not water. It's actually on land care. So it's actually on what you guys do, not necessarily water. And I would say that the most important thing that we could do is to invest time and energy and information into the people that care for plants, because that's what we're talking about, is how to have beautiful landscapes that are filled with plants, how plants grow, how soil holds water, how we can have a beautiful landscape that is actually based in good horticultural practices. That's really such an important thing that gets missed in these conversations, because if we're trying to have a sustainable irrigation system working in an inherently unsustainable model, then it's always going to be a bit of a slog. But what we need to really do is start to train people in how to care for plants. And really, a healthy garden is oftentimes a beautiful garden. A healthy landscape is a beautiful landscape. So I think that training in horticulture, thinking about how to make plants thrive in the climate we have, that's really the key. One of the big misconceptions that I've seen over the last 10 years is people making the assumption when we're talking about drought resiliency or we're talking about water use efficiency, that what we really mean is no water. And that is one of the worst sort of misconceptions that exists. We don't mean cacti, because when we look at a healthy landscape in our region, we see maybe 2 species of cacti. Everything else is shrubs and trees and ground cover. So we're not talking about cacti. We're not talking about layering over our landscapes with artificial turf, which is essentially putting more plastic in the world. We're not even talking about taking acres of landscape that is inherently unsustainable because of what we've planted into it and covering it all with irrigation lines that are 18 inches on center. So we really have to go right back to the beginning and start thinking about how can we put the infrastructure in place to make it beautiful and to make it sustainable in our climate.
And that's interesting because we have to work with more people to get our minds there. And we've talked about the value of partnership. Clearly, this is an example of that. And David, you talked about the, partners like Metropolitan and other water agencies and what we can do. And I'm sure there's more we can do. But are there any partners that should be at the table in these conversations that are not currently? And the reason I ask that is during the break, I had a conversation with the commissioners from Lake Forest, and she mentioned, she's the Parks and Rec, and all these are part of many of our HOAs. But sometimes we don't always think about the different components of our community. So are there some other partners that you think should be really brought into this? And if you think everyone is still, everyone that should be involved is there anything more we can do to do a better job of partnering?
Yeah, I think, definitely HOAs are a big cog in the entire wheel. I think, property owners, commercial building managers, anybody that has a sizable landscape, is a stakeholder in, the drought, water efficiency. I think all these voices need to be put together. We've done CLCA has done similar events to this in Northern California, with the Association of Community Managers. And really, I think that those discussions were helpful, but I think they were very drought driven. So, it seemed to me in the years that there was a drought going on, we had more attention paid to water conservation. We had more people concerned, as opposed to the years when there wasn't a drought going on. And obviously, I don't wish that we had more droughts, but I think that droughts do kind of push the issue a little bit more. It's a little bit more mainstream. It's more in the media. It's more in people's minds. Water conservation, even with the contractors that we educate, I seem to have more in years when there's drought. So I think obviously, end users push contractors to take that, to get that education, to get certified. And so obviously I wish it was like that all the time. I wish that we could steadily grow instead of, I guess sort of, be reactive to the drought situation. I think we could do a better job of being proactive and sort of building for the next drought. Obviously the next drought is here, but we should, sort of be in crisis mode all the time. Would be my ask for the people at the table.
Yeah, crisis is good because it presents a challenge and it allows us to move quicker. Yes, Jody.
I want to jump on this one really quick.
I know you do. I saw you smile. I was going to write to you.
So this is such an important question right now. And that is, who needs to be at the table when we're making these decisions? So I am a sustainable sites advanced professional, and that essentially is a third-party verified certification that's run by the Green Building Council. Most of you probably heard of LEED. Well, it's LEED taken outdoors. And the thing about sustainable sites is there are some sort of basic foundational things that must be done to even qualify your site to be certified as a sustainable site. And one of those things, the most basic of things, is to form an integrated team, because you cannot have a sustainable outcome if everyone's not on the same page. And one of the things that I really value, just to put a plug in for Moulton Niguel, is that Moulton Niguel Water District, is that Moulton Niguel is not simply a water purveyor. They are actually they're an organization that values land stewardship. And that means that they should be at the table when we're thinking about what to do with our huge tracts of land, whether we're looking to them for education, whether we're looking to them to sort of leverage the resources that they know about and they have. In our HOAs, when we have a project sitting on our conference table that we want to start working towards, the one thing that we can do as an HOA, and I've been on my HOA boards in the years that I've been living in my community, the thing that we can do is we decide who has the expertise that needs to come to the table from the beginning so that we can have a sustainable outcome. One of the things that I can't imagine really being more frustrating to the people who are assigned to take care of our landscapes is to have a designer sitting at their desk, a landscape architect or a designer, make this landscape on a piece of paper, hand it to them and say, okay, here you go, make it beautiful. Oh, that's a big ask, because they might have said, had they been at the table, we can't grow these plants, or we can't irrigate them, or they won't fit in this place, or they're going to be so high maintenance that our landscapes are going to be filled with herbicides and fungicides and mowers and blowers and trimmers and noise. So bring everybody to the table who is a stakeholder in your landscape, which includes, by the way, ecosystems in nature, let them have a voice in your landscape too, because during a drought, the systems most vulnerable to sometimes extinction, but certainly harm, are our natural systems. So that's such a good question.
Well, we always welcome plugs and compliments. And I saw Danny, you were nodding the whole time, so that means we hit pretty much all the points. So we have a few minutes left. When you're having fun, time flies by. So I want to see if there's any questions from the audience, because if not, I got several more, but I want to give you all a chance. Don't all raise your hands at once. Oh, there's a brave gentleman. Yes, sir. So for our virtual audience, I want to be able to repeat the question because they can't hear you. And there's no way that I'm going to memorize all the numbers that you did. I can barely get names right. So I'm just going to say that summarization is, when we look at it from the urban community, we're being asked to cut back our water use. We saw that last historic drought. We're being asked to do that again this time, although it's right now voluntary. And yet most of the water usage in California is for agriculture. So how do you reconcile sort of that discrepancy in our mind? We're asked to use less. We're paying a lot of dues for HOAs, a lot of cost of water, yet most of the water is going to ag use, particularly some other crops, particularly you've heard in almonds, how much water it uses. How do we get through these issues? What does the future look like? And I'll kind of take this one a little bit, and I would love your perspectives on it. But so the way that the water is being used in California, it is what it is. A lot of times you have the 19th century laws and ways and rights that are governing how we use water today. Does it actually make the best sense? No, but it's going to take time to change that, not to mention the environmental regulatory constraints, all the stuff that comes with how we convey water, where the water is used. But in California, there are enough water. It's just that's not located where it's needed. At the same time, when we talk about agriculture and having worked in Northern California for 2 years and having a lot of friends who are farmers, including almond farmers, it is the backbone of the California economy. So we do have to think about that and balance that with everything else. I think for our purposes, it's sort of how can we be resilient in our community, in Southern California, in our neighborhoods, and we can all do something. And I think that's really what we're trying to equip everyone with, is what are the tools, who are some of the people that you can go to when you're trying to do the right thing. Because if everyone did that, it's amazing what can happen. And I think last historic drought was really a testament to the power of the people. Your participation makes every difference. Even though we were faced with a very severe reductions, everyone came through and we created some really great habits that last us to now and makes us more resilient for this and future conditions. So I think there is both immediate and long-term. There are things that we can all do now, and there are some things that's going to take a while for people to do when working with our partners and legislators and other stakeholders. But I'd be interested in some of your thoughts, because I mean, this is a conversation that's not new to you. And you guys are trying to tell people this is what needs to happen. I'm sure you've heard that response before. So what are some of your thoughts when you get asked that question, or maybe some other tough questions that you've been asked during the course of your career? And start with you, Danny.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely challenged myself to educate myself ultimately outside of the Southern California bubble, and what that actually means with all the development that we're seeing in San Jose, down by the border in San Diego. It's tough. We do have water rights. We have areas that are zoned for ag, and that's a lot of politics. That's a lot of politics that have to be broken down and transition. It's not an overnight fix, but I do agree in some aspects of sustainability and resiliency. And if the math doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. But we have to acknowledge the economy. We have to acknowledge the lives disrupted. There's just a lot more moving parts than I think people give it credit for.
Now my staff's giving me 2 fingers, so before they give me the 1 finger, really quickly, we'll go David, and then we'll go Jody.
Yeah, I think that gentleman brings up a good point as to another one of the stakeholders that should be involved. Obviously your lawmakers, legislators, but I think I think in general, my response would be, as people, I'm sure Joone, in urban water. And contractors in general, they always have the biggest targets on their back. They're the most visible out there. Obviously, agriculture is what it is. You know, they're producing stuff for the economy. But we can only really do our part and control our, 15-16% of the water use that we're using. And I think if we're able to kind of succeed, on a small level, that may translate further to maybe the ag, getting on board with water efficiency.
Jody.
Mine's gonna be a little bit shorter. I would say that, I'm sure Arizona's not really delighted to have junior water rights to California, even though they're, the water reaches them before it reaches us potentially. So I would say I would completely separate out agriculture from what we have to deal with in our urban environment. They have their issues, they're being dealt with them in a different way. Yes, there are problems. Yes, there are, inequalities in their system. But that doesn't mean that because of that, then we shouldn't have any need to conserve here. We should all do our part in our own way, in our own market sector, to try to solve the problem of water overuse and to become more drought resilient.
Well, thank you so much for all your perspectives and putting up with my sort of the impromptu questions. But I learned a lot just from listening to all of you. And, I like talking with all of you. Maybe we can all hang out sometime. No, not anytime soon. No. And I want to thank all of you for being part of the audience of the questions and for the virtual audience. All these information will be on all the different agencies' website, and hopefully in the future, you'll participate in person or virtually and tell your friends about it. But certainly want to give a round of applause to our great panelists.